All right, guys, so we're breaking down this render here in episode 6 of Why I Like Blender Octane. Again, this was motivated by the members in my community who've been pumping out some car renders, and I thought, can I do that? So here we are. Enough of my jibber jabber. If you are new to my channel, my name is Patrick LeVar. I make videos on my journey of learning Blender Octane, and that's something you might be interested in. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and do all that jibber jabber. Let's get straight down to the breakdown. Straight down to the breakdown? All right, guys, so the first question that many people are going to probably ask me is, where did I get the car model? I got the car model from Blender Kit. Free Blender Kit model, and the exact model I used was right here, the Audi edition. No, that wasn't it. That was a customized one. I used this one right here, Audi R8 Sport by AmJviz. So I basically download that. That was made for cycles, okay? Again, anytime you're using Blender Kit and you're using Octane, those materials pretty much don't work with Octane, right? We need to convert our materials. Let me quickly show you a quick workflow on that. Quickly, let me walk you through the process really fast of how I would convert something like this over. We clearly see nothing is showing. So what I basically do is if I come over here, I'll click on a particular car part, and this one I'm going to click on the body here, right? Here is the body, and then what we're going to do is car paint here. Then I'll scroll down to the bottom here, and Octane has its own little converter. As right here, convert to Octane material. I'll click on that, and we're gonna go ahead and convert only this material, and then there it is. It worked on that. It was pretty much just black, right? It made it just a simple car material. So from here, I will go ahead and start building out my own custom material, tweaking things a little bit, making things better. But that's basically the easiest way to do it. But it's really not that difficult. I click on this bodywork here, and we see we got this carbon fiber material. Now this material in particular is a little bit easier to set up. You see here, it's just some 2 image maps plugged into here. When you got a simple material like this, it's going to convert very easily with Octane. Now come over here, go back to my converter, convert material, hit up. I'm actually blocking that. Let me get out of the way for you guys. Right here again, so I'll repeat that process. You didn't see it convert Octane material. I click on that. Only selected material, yes. Click on that. Boom, there it is. Now we've got the carbon fiber material in there. Obviously the scale is off. Again, that's why you're going to make some further tweaks. So I'll literally add a UV transform, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect that to this bottom one. Also UV transform, add a projection on here, and then I'll come over here and then start to tweak in my values and make some adjustments. And there's my carbon fiber. Boom. So I literally just went through that whole process and just converted materials. Same with the glass. You just click on the glass here. Here is now this one is an interesting setup here. They've got a glossy material with the principal BFD, convert material. Boom, nothing happened, right? So in that case, since I know it's just a glass material, it's no big thing for me. So literally all I will do is come in here. For me using Octane, I want a specular material. I want specular, which we'll use for glass. Plug that into the surface. And there it is. Now I've got a glass material. Again, IRR looks a little wonky, so I can go ahead and start tweaking down my values, getting things set up a little bit more better, how I want them. I want to use GGX energy preserve. And then I added some image maps in here to make the grunge a little bit more grungy on the windows. And I just repeated that whole process on all the materials. Next thing you also may notice in this material, or in this render, sorry, I am using an HDRI dome. If I quickly zoom out of it, here it is. We did figure out how to make an HDRI dome in Octane. There's several ways we can do it. We have a OSL script which can do it like that. It has its limitations. And then there's a second way by actually building a dome. I'll quickly walk you guys through how to do that here. So here's quickly a quick setup of how we did the HDRI dome. I'm going to make a more dedicated video to this. So if you guys are interested in this, stay tuned. That will be coming soon. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. But basically here it is. We've got the ground plane and we've got a half dome. This is the easiest part. Now what the setup is what really where the magic happens. If I jump into the camera and go ahead and hit render right now, you're going to see like, okay, that looks like garbage, right? That doesn't look that cool. So the way we need to set this up is if we look at our material, so we've got our ground plane here. I've got to make sure I'm selected on my ground plane, and I'm going to go ahead and go full screen so you can see this. And if those of you who are interested, you might want to go ahead and take a screenshot of this real quick. So here is it. We got a 3D transform into a spectacle projection with an RGB image. This is where the HDRI is loaded, and I've got this HDRI right here, which I've downloaded from HDR Heaven 4K Market. Okay, that's plugged into a texture emission node which is plugged into the emission, and then we have a ray switch node, which is like in Cycles camera ray node or whatever that is, so I can control where the camera rays, what rays I want and what I don't. And I have that plugged into the opacity. This is the setup that you're going to put on the side of the dome and on the ground plane. So what's next is most important is these rotation settings here. If I jump in quickly so you can see this top one needs to be set to 90. This one needs to be set to -1, and then we're going to use this bottom one here to make adjustments to make our HDRI fit. So we jump back over. So here it is. Obviously this doesn't look like it's lining up right. I'm going to click my ground plane. I'm going to go rotate on the Z, and I'm going to try to just rotate this to get this somewhat up, line this curve up. Okay, that looks good. But we can see it's clearly still not the best, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and grab this other one, this back one. And we can also come over here to translation. Now, if I start to play with this translation, you see what happened. We're making some adjustments there, right? We're starting to make some adjustments. So I'm just going to try to line this up to the best of my ability for this shot, maybe something like that. But just for the sake of this video, boom, it's pretty much lined up. Now we do see we have like some lighting issues happening between the two, right? So this is where I'll come back over here onto my texture emission node. And if I grab the distribution, and I can play with this, and then you can see it's getting brighter or lower. Let me lower the distribution of light on here and trying to get something to match the side walls right there. Now maybe something like that. Let's click on the side walls. Okay, that's somewhat matching there. That looks okay. Now if I go ahead and take away this, again, it's not to scale, but that looks great. Okay, and then this is where you'll just, depending on what your shot and what you need here, if I grab my guy, you know, play around with your shot and stuff like that. But then the most important here is this ray switch node. Here on the side walls, this ray switch node, you can see here is the HDRI that's in the background of the scene. Now if I bring this, now we're seeing that this is where you get more control of how much light you want to come in here. Do I want the shadows? Again, this just gives us more options here to play around with this whole setup here. But this is something I'll get into in a different video, but that is how we basically can make an HDRI dome in Blender Octane. It's really cool. Now, as far as lighting in my scene, I pretty much didn't really do any lighting. This is just an HDRI that's lighting the whole scene. This whole original scene was literally kind of like just a test. Can I do it? Like, I probably put 80% effort into this whole scene because I didn't really know. This was a new step for me. So basically it's a test scene. It's basically a test render to see if I can do this. So I just have an HDRI lighting the whole scene with my HDRI dome in here to help me get the whole thing to look and miss it, or not miss, to look like it's in an actual location. One other thing that I thought was pretty cool, if I go back to one of these shots here, this shot here, you can see here on the exhaust, I've got this heat treated exhaust basically. Now I did set that material up, and this is another thing about 80% complete. I did the material, but for some reason it wasn't projecting onto the other side of it. So it's like, you know what? The hell with it. It's not going to be seen. I'll just use this side of the car and we'll use that shot. Again, saving time. Like, if you know that you're not going to show both sides of the exhaust, then don't even worry about it. Like, just shortcuts. The render was, again, 80% complete, right? So if I jump back in, here is the exhaust. Let me quickly show you how I was able to achieve this. Now, I do a lot of reverse engineering to figure out how to do things. This creator here in Node.js graphics, he has this heat treated material metal in Octane. I followed his tutorial. He does Cinema 4D stuff. I reverse engineered to work for Blender Octane, which pretty much it did. Now, when you do stuff like this, the actual numerical values or the number values that he's using in Octane or C4D are not the same number values that I would use in Octane Blender, because Blender's numerical values are different from Cinema 4D's numerical values. So when you're doing stuff like the noise pattern that he would use, I just look at that noise pattern and try to recreate that noise pattern with my settings, with my number values. So less about number values, more about what you see, okay? So I followed his tutorial, and this is basically the node setup here. Again, this could be a separate whole tutorial, but just to quickly give you a quick crash course, we have scratches, we have noise, and we have heat treated materials. Again, these number values don't match his number values, but I just basically eyeballed it, get my material to look as close as to what I was seeing him do. And pretty much the node setups, all the nodes, the hash lag, the triangular map, all those nodes work. The exact same nodes he used in Octane work. They're just different transitions, like you know, the 3D transform node, that's a little bit different. A color ramp for me is a gradient ramp that, you know, which is different for him in Octane, in C4D. But the gradient generator, all of those nodes, the major nodes were there. The texture compile comp node was there, material, everything else was there that I needed to follow along. It just, the number values are different, and that's how I was able to get this heat treated exhaust look here, which is super dope, right, onto my car there. Next thing that was really fun, that again, using this as an experimentation to figure out how to do things, texture painting was a big thing that I did in this one to really help me grime up this car, because trying to procedurally or trying to get this type of dirt texture on here is a pain, but not with texture painting. It's super easy. So I've already released a video about how to set up texture painting in Blender Octane, and that's how I basically did it here. I'll do a quick crash course to show you again how I was able to get like this right here, this mud, this grime right here. This is basically a mud decal, or actually a mud brush from Quixel Bridge, the free Quixel Bridge. Make sure you claim your stuff because you're running out of time. I used one of those and slapped it on here, painted it on, and then boom, let me quickly show you the setup on that. Now here is the actual whole car paint material setup, okay? Now it's a little bit big, it is not complicated, it's extremely simple here. All right, so if I solo the white car paint, this is what it looks like, just a clean white car paint with the glossy and a clear coat. I added on a clear coat right here, you can see that. Here is the clear coat added onto that. Then we get into this next one here, and this next one is, again, here is a little bit of an off-white color, and here you can see I'm just griming that up a little bit, adding just a slight off-white color of the original, so it's just not looking super clean, right? You can barely even notice that, like, see, you can't even really see that, but these small details add up. Then from there, I've got this brown color here. Here is this brown color that we've got going on here, and then what I do is I have another grunge map that I'm using, or not, my roughness generator. I'm running that through a dirt texture and let that come through there. There it is through the dirt texture. And again, this is very subtle, but if we come in here, you can see it. Here it is, like just a little bit of subtleness. And then I add that and I mix that on top of what we already have. And when you see that together, you can barely even notice that, but it's there, right? Then we pump that out and again into the mud paint. Here is the mask for my mud paint that I customly painted. And let's kind of scroll over here so you can see that. Here it is down here on the bottom of the cart. There it is, a little bit of that. And then I think I also put a little bit of it on the front door and this front area here, which is very subtle, but it's also it's pretty much there, right? So there that is. And then again, I'm mixing that together and boom, there it is right there. There is a little bit of mud splash using the mud brush from Quixel Bridge. And then again, we come back over here, we got some more grime. And I'm throwing it into a curvature texture node, and that gets into the curves like this. Boom, there it is. Adding some more dirt and grime on that. And then I think what I did was I inverted that, because black conceal, white reveals. I inverted that, so it was like that. And then we mix that on top of everything else again. And then we move on to the next one. And the next one here was, again, I did some more texture painting just with a standard brush, making these like rubber, like pieces of rubber were coming off, more grime, more dirt, make it in a straight black color. And then I put that on top, and then boom, you've got the little blackbacks and stuff like they're mixing it. Again, just stacking grime on top of grime on top of grime. With the texture painting, it really helps because I can put it where I want instead of trying to get some map, some grunge map to kind of sit in there and put all these weird projections and try to get it to fit. Just paint it on there. It's so much easier. And I know some of you are like, well, how the heck do you set that up? I have a dedicated video to it, but since you're here, I'm going to show you how to do that quickly. All right, so I have this cube here. Basically, I'm going to throw material on this cube. Now, the most important thing also too, with that car model, when I first tried to do the painting, it wouldn't work because there's modifiers still on there. There was a mirror modifier and a couple other I had to convert all those modifiers just to get to a single mesh. And then once I had that single mesh, I basically came in here and I UV unwrapped it, and we're just gonna go a quick UV unwrap. And matter of fact, I'm in Octane, so I'm gonna do a quick smart project unwrap that there. And then what I'm gonna come over here and do is go ahead and fire up the render. And on this material, we got a material on here. I'm gonna come in here and go I'm gonna go RGB image. I'm gonna add in an RGB image node. plug that into the albedo. And now to get the texture paint to work, I'm gonna make this a new material. Here it is. You might want to make it 2K, but I left all of this, you know, make sure you name it. I'm gonna call this test just so we can see it, right? Test 10K. I'll go ×2 because I want it to be 2K, hit new image. And then on this node, you see this pops up here? Use in the viewport. Yes, I want to use this for viewport paint. Make sure you initiate that, otherwise it won't work. Okay, now you see it's turned black over here. So I'm going to jump over to the texture editor now, texture paint editor. So now I'm in the texture paint editor. You can see we've got our things been completely unwrapped here. Check here at the top, it says test right there, so I know I'm on the right map that I want to be painting on. And then I can just come in here and literally boom, just start painting. There it is. Now I've got my paint happening. And if we go ahead and turn on render, you're gonna see there it is. I've painted on there. Now to get my textured brush, you're gonna need to load in a custom brush, okay? So to load in a custom brush, you're gonna come over here to your side. Let me see if I can remember this. I went textured mask, new, and then once we scroll down, we're gonna click on the texture, and then we're gonna add in the texture that you want. Again, I downloaded these mud splashes from Quixel Bridge or Fab or whatever it's called these days. I'm gonna use a 2K version. I'm gonna go ahead and open that up. Now if I press F, you're gonna see here, now I have my brush and it's able. So now if I go ahead and click, boom, there it is. Now I'm able to paint my splat on there where I want that dirt to be. And you got some like weirdness that's happening here, but you need to make sure if you click back on your tools, you see here it's untiled. I can go to view plane and you'll get a different type of pattern. You can also come over here and hit rake and random, and now it's going to randomly, so you can play with those settings, but I think I just had it on pretty much standard just so I can like kind of get it in there like that. And then boom, that's pretty much how you do your texture painting. I jump back to my shader editor. Now the way that I want to use this correctly, like let's go ahead and disconnect that. Here is my map, my mask that we've made. And let's go ahead and make this a different color. We're gonna make this red, right? And then I'm gonna go ahead and drive that out. I'm gonna add in a mixed material, drop that into here, make this our first texture. There it is. I'm gonna go ahead and second material, and we're gonna just go opposite. We'll go green or blue here so we can see it, right? This is going to be our dirt. Now I take my mask that we painted, we go ahead and plug that into the amount. Boom, there it is. Now there's our splats and there is our brush. That is basically the core of how I did the texture painting. Now another thing I did that I thought was very fun, I added these little car decals here, these couple of those stickers. I made my own custom sticker. You see I've got this one here, and then I made a bumper sticker here on the back, which you got to throw in some really cool stuff here, and some other car decals, which I've actually found searching around, researching to get some stickers. I found these on Amazon and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I ended up literally just taking a screenshot of the actual sticker from Amazon and used that in here. And then I made here, I love Blender. Now the way to do that, I ended up shrink wrapping. I used a shrink wrap modifier. This is just a plane. We jump out of render. It's just a plane with the shrink wrap modifier on there. Boom, very easy. And then I used the texture. I put all my decals on one material, texture material, and brought that in. Let me quickly show you in Photoshop. Here it is. This is the file. I put everything here in one. It's on a PNG. I made it 2K so I can have a little bit high resolution. And the reason I did it here is because at first I was gonna grime the stickers up, but I ended up not doing it just because I was running out of time. But it's easier to come in here and paint the grime on here in Photoshop and then save this file, bring it back over to Octane, and then boom, instead of trying to figure out how you're gonna grime this in Octane using procedural materials and all that, do it here and then just export it out. So that's basically how I made those stickers. And to jump back over here, added it onto a shrink wrap modifier, and again just playing with the UVs. If I jump into the UV editor, and then if I come over here and select, I actually just imported the Photoshop file so I can have more control with this Photoshop file right here, car sticker PSD. And then I can just, all I have to do is whenever I make a change inside of Photoshop and I save that file, all I have to do is just turn off the render and return it back on the render, and it makes the updates. So literally you can see here, this is basically, I just used the UVs to get my area of what part of the sticker that I wanted it to be. Took that plane, duplicated that plane, then I came over here, added it on the back. There it is. And I just repeated that process with the decals. It was super easy, and boom. That's just another thing on how you can add decals and get the power of decals out of your for your renders. Then after that, basically I started animating cameras, and again I've learned a lot about animating cameras. I talked about this wasn't really a fully planned and thought out video. I was kind of doing it as I was going. I made a couple of mistakes. I just used a standard camera, and using the standard camera, I found like it was actually quite difficult to do some of these moves. Like some of these basic moves was okay, but like this move in particular, and this move, that move was okay. This move in particular, this one, not so much. But using the basic camera is quite difficult to do animations, especially when you're moving and you're pivoting around things. And in researching what moves that I wanted to do, that was another thing. Before I started animating, I already knew what shots I wanted, because I literally quickly made a quick shot list here of the shots that I wanted. And what I did was I started watching a bunch of car YouTubers videos, and I literally went R8 or R9, or matter of fact, let me just show you the video. Now, so I did some researching, like I said before. I watched these YouTube channels. These three were the ones that really got me motivated. It's about shot ideas and what I wanted to do. Again, I had that shot list here, so I knew what shots I want. But this guy right here from the Car Creative, how to shoot B-roll for car videos and Instagram settings, shot ideas and editing tutorials, his really helped out with focal lengths and just the general thought process of these car guys and how they do stuff, because I come from a more mobile filmmaking background. I never shot a car before, so like, you know, research things that you don't know about. This guy does cars, I researched about him. And these are the three videos that really got me into that ballpark as far as setting up my animation goes. So that was pretty much my idea on how I was able to get my shots. But like, back to the camera thing, using Blender's standard camera really kind of sucks for doing really, once you start doing crazy movements. Like if you're just doing a quick little push in like this and, you know, some simple stuff, it's okay. But like if I wanted to, for example, to set up my camera shot and I wanted to kind of like, you know, rotate around my guy that's here and setting this camera up and then trying to get it to like, you know, pivot and rotate around him, it's actually a little bit of a pain. There is a default setting in add-on inside of Blender called the camera rig or something. Let me go show you. You go into your preferences, and I think it was under camera right here, add camera rigs, turn that on. Once you turn that on, you're gonna go ahead and Shift A, you go to cameras. Now you got these two extra ones. Look, that 3 extras. I got dolly camera rig, crane camera rig, and then I got 2D camera rig. If I click on this, now look at the difference. This I should have used when I first started, and it would have saved me a lot of pain. Like I'm just giving this to you guys now so you can choose it. Take the time to practice using this camera because it's so much quicker. Again, like if I wanted to go around him, for example, let's jump in here. I would literally, all I need to do is come here, drag my camera here like that, right? And then you have to go into pose mode because it's like a rigged camera. And if I open my side menu here, and we'll go to, what is it, items, you'll see I've got some, let me go ahead and hide that for camera rig setups here. I got some camera stuff here that we can use, right? So literally, if I press Control Tab, I go into pose mode. I'm gonna grab this is like the camera marker, right? And I'm gonna jump over here and I'm gonna put that on him like that. Okay, boom, we've got that. And now I've got that set up. So if I do grab, actually I gotta go back to pose mode. If I grab this section here, and let's say we go rotate Z, I can rotate this and this stays pivoted on him. Look at that. That stays pivoted right on top of him, right? If I move this around, look at it. It's staying right aimed at on him. So let me jump into the camera over here so we can see. All right, we're in camera view. Now look at this. If I rotate around him, come on, guys. That like, and look, I'm coming in, whoop, whoop, pulling out, whoop. Even if I just go straight at him, whoop, whoop. This is so dope. Like, and this thing is like, you get my point, right? Use this. It's super way more faster, especially when you're doing these type of crazy movements and stuff like that. I wish I would have did that the first time. All right, next was my rendering, going to render this sucker out. Look at this. I had 10 cameras, right? And it was taking at 1,000 samples with my diffuse setting. Check it out. I'll show you guys my settings here. With my diffuse set to 12, specular 24, scattering 16. Well, another that's important might be my GI clamp was also set to 10. Okay, other than that, everything else was pretty much set up. I should have had adaptive sampling on, but I didn't because I knew I was going to send this to the render network. For those of you who stayed here throughout the video this long, I've got a free gift for you here. I got 30 credits, 30 euros or free, or 300 frames or 30 seconds of animation to try out on the Render Foundation network. Upload your render onto here, export it out an Orbix file, throw it on here and use the render network. It's super fast, guys. So imagine for me trying to render out, what was it, how many shots? I had 10 camera shots, right? And it was taking about 2 minutes a frame rendering them out at 4K. I was exporting them out at 4K. So what I did was I just dropped them onto the render network. I literally grabbed all 10 cameras, threw them in here, uploaded them simultaneously. That was probably the longest process of the whole rendering process, was waiting for them to upload, because it's based on your internet speed. I have fast internet speed, but not blazingly fast internet speed. So once they were all on the network here, I literally came in here, created a job, which was super easy. I literally would create job, and then I set it up. Okay, I want these to be at 4K, and then I was like, I had 1,000 samples, and then I want to render all frames from 0 to 89. If you're using your free credits, I would say first do your first 10 frames so you can test it to make sure it's what you want, so you don't waste your credits, okay? And then from there, I clicked advanced settings. I wanted enabled RTX rendering, and then I wanted these beauty passes. I wanted denoising, Z-depth pass, which I didn't end up using, but I wanted those just in case. And then I went to next, and then I select out my output. I always render out EXRs, 16-bit. I went to DWA lossless, which can be smaller than a PNG if you didn't know that. Color space, I kept it at linear sRGB. I wanted a multi-layer EXR, meaning I wanted all those passes to be on one file. I didn't want to have multiple files for those. And my camera battery has died and I don't want to replace it at the moment. So we'll keep going. And then from there, I just go to continue to the network. And this is where I say it took a little bit longer, because I literally was first doing high priority because I just wanted to get it to see what it's going to look like. But then once I was ready and I had my render that I knew was finished, I went to economy, and it took a little bit longer because it costs less. Check it out. For me to use economy, we'll get to the exact prices, but economy is like here, economy renders solution for users without a time pressure or a heavy scene. That was me. If we go over here to priority, increase priority for quickness, accessing powerful distribution GPU nodes. Basically, you get it faster, they uploads faster, and things like that. Once I chose mine, I chose economy for my final. I went to estimate cost. It was taking me 2 minutes a frame. So at 2 minutes a frame, it was going to cost me about 3.6 render credits to render this job, right? Again, if I went to priority, it's going to cost 7.2. And if you're using the free credits, milk it out to the end. And then from there, I go ahead and hit create job. I'm not going to do that because I've already created my job. Once you've done that, you're going to get this. It's going to send you to here, and then you'll scroll this down, and these little guys will start turning from gray to yellow. That means they're starting to render out, and it just boop, 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 bing, and then it was finished. And then what I do is I check my frames. I literally come in here and press play, get a quick preview so I can see, okay, if there's anything wrong. And there was one frame and one render that like the windows kind of like went gray, like for some reason. So I just re-rendered that one particular frame. I think it was like frame 12. So I literally clicked on like frame 12, and then you can say here, re-render that frame. I re-rendered it, and then it worked. From then I just downloaded it, and after that I just repeated that through all my shots, and got all 10 of my shots done. And matter of fact, you could render 3 shots simultaneously is the max, but once those 3 were done, it started kicking onto the other one, so it just kept chaining it. 30 minutes later, I had all 10 cameras rendered. Don't forget, drop your email, get your free render credits, try it out if you like it. You know, instead of wasting money on Starbucks coffee, save that and buy some render credits. Yeah. So from there, once that was all pretty much exported out, I jumped over into Davinci Resolve, started doing some editing on there. But one other thing though, I did also make things look a little bit 80s. I would say I'm a retro guy. I'm, you know, born in 77, so I'm a 80s kid, right? I grinded this thing up and I found this excellent VHS adapter or grimer that looks really good. So I am in the process of also learning Nuke, and I found this really cool channel from Kurt Skeleton, whatever. Anyways, this guy does some really cool videos, and there was a video that he talked about. He made this Crown Victoria and he made it look like all grimy and like made it look old, like kind of VHS style. But he showed me this really cool add-on, and it's called ntsqT. Here it is. I will have the GitHub link down below. It is free, and it's probably one of the best VHS generators I've ever seen, because originally when they designed it, they made this code, it was to clean up VHS footage to make it look clean. So they flipped it and used it to turn video into it. So the algorithms, the stuff they use is like really good. Take a look at that, but I'll quickly just show you this is what I did here. I literally just loaded up my image. It works with video and it also works with images. And pretty much that's it. Like, you come in through here and you start changing these settings and messing with things, like, and it just grinds it up like really, really good. There's a pro mode, which you can come in, but I literally just went to the default mode. There's a couple of presets here on the bottom. Like, I just ended up using one of the presets and just kind of tweaking it a little bit, nothing too much. But I will be playing with this more later in other projects. But I ran it through here because I thought it was really cool, and like, I wanted to just make my render a little bit different from all the other car videos that I was seeing. Like, I'm just like, I always like grinding stuff up. That's just my thing. So that brings us to our final part of the journey. I brought my EXRs into Blender Octane. Quickly here, I will show you that because a lot of people ask me, like, how do I work with EXRs? I'm gonna be making a more dedicated video on that. But I learned from Gleb Alexandric's his free course on how to get that workflow going. But quickly for me, just to show you, if I jump over to, here's my node setup. I have one node that's set up for just exposure. This node here is where I add my color transform node, and literally here it is, color space transform, and I use linear because that's what it is. It's a linear EXR. That's what EXRs are. And then I change it to whatever I basically want. In this case, I went area wide gamut 3 with an area log C. Then I add another node in here, which I'm going to use for color correction, white balancing and stuff. And on that next node, we need to match what we did on this first one. Out color source, output color space, RE and gamma. We need to match these on the next one for input. So you can see here, there they are. I changed them to input, and then my final output for TV, for video, for Instagram, whatnot, I went Rec 709, and I did a 2.2 gamma on this case. And then what I also did was I came down here. I ticked these so I can have maximum control of my footage of, or all the dynamic range of my EXRs. So it comes in stock like this, and you can see here it looks okay. But then if I turn this on, and then it gets blown out, and then I say, okay, hang on, I want to control those nits, and now I got maximum nit value right there. And then I think this may have been like this. It was a little too dark for me. I didn't like that, so I just turned this off. And then I was gonna grade it up and do my own kind of pushing and pull. And I really wanted the highlights to be a little bit blown out because on 80 camcorders, the highlights, they don't have a lot of dynamic range, so the highlights would have been a little bit more blown out. But you know, if I was going for more of a modern day camera look, I probably would have did, you know, maybe had it something more like kind of like this, and you know, control it for a more modern day look. But you know, I was playing around, just having fun. So, and that was pretty much the workflow. And then I came back over here, did some editing. So you guys like this? You like these breakdowns? If you like these breakdowns, let me know. I got lots of breakdowns like that in my Blender Octane Skool 7-day free trial if you guys are into that. Oh, but there it is, 7-day free trial. Take a look at it. Peace. I'm out.